Hello, folks. I am Alan for today's news. I will be reading and speaking about world news, interesting news to keep you entertained, and news to keep you informed. First thing I got from you here from the Business Insider. The U.S. could lose up to 900 warplanes fighting a Chinese invasion of Taiwan, but would emerge victorious, says a think tank. See what it says here.
A think tank ran wargame analyses for a conflict between the US and China over Taiwan. One of the analysts told Insider the US and Taiwan would likely succeed in beating back a Chinese invasion. However, both sides would likely suffer devastating losses. Up to 900 US warplanes could be destroyed. Full screen. US and Taiwan would likely be able to fend off a Chinese invasion, but it would come with heavy losses on both sides, a think tank analysis says. This week China conducted 3 days of military drills around Taiwan shortly after Taiwan's president, Tsai Ing-wen, traveled to the US to meeting US House Speaker Kevin McCarthy. The drills involved practicing encirclement of the island, with Beijing considers its own, and simulating direct strikes on Taiwan from the sea, air, and China's mainland, in what some analysts described as an escalation of drills conducted in August. The Washington-based think tank, the Center for Strategic and International Studies, conducted wargames last year to imagine how such a conflict would play out. The good news is that at the end of all the iterations so far, there is an autonomous Taiwan, Mark Canchin, a senior advisor at the Center for Strategic and International Studies, told Insider. The United States and Taiwan are generally successful in keeping the island out of Chinese occupation, but the price of that is very high: losses of hundreds of aircraft carriers, and terrible devastation to the Taiwanese economy and also to the Chinese Navy and Air Force. In one of the more pessimistic scenarios, 900 American fighter and attack aircraft would be lost in 4 weeks, equivalent to half of the U.S. Air Force and Navy's combat planes, according to the Times of London.
Okay, you can read the rest of it. The link will be in my description box if you like. And let me go to the next one here. This is from Yahoo Finance. Well, it's also from USA Today too, looks like.
Surge in electric vehicle sales will be fueled by tough emission standards, EPA says. 38. Todd Spangler. Joe Biden's administration was set Wednesday to propose tougher greenhouse gas emission standards for cars and trucks sold in the U.S. that it claims could potentially lead to electric vehicles accounting for as much as 67% of all new sales in less than a decade. If that comes to pass, it would signal a remarkable transition in the American automobile market, given that electric vehicles accounted for about 6% of new sales last year, though that was a substantial increase. Polls have shown many consumers are not sold on making the switch, with concerns about range and the upfront cost of electric vehicles much more than many gasoline-powered models. But Biden administration officials said if automakers embrace electric vehicles as the key way toward the future, and many already have, with General Motors, for example, aspiring to be all-electric by 2035, they project that those cars and trucks could account for 67% of new light-duty vehicle sales and 46% of new medium-duty vehicle sales in model year 2032. That change, they said, is also being driven by states, led by California, looking for all new vehicles to emit zero greenhouse gases by 2035, worldwide efforts to battle climate change, and Biden's own initiatives, including those to encourage consumers to buy electric vehicles and spur domestic battery production and the installation of hundreds of thousands of charging stations. It's not simple, it's not easy, Margot Oge, former head of EPA's Office of Transportation and Air Quality, said of the potential for electric vehicle sales to top 60% of the market by the 2030s. But is it doable? Yes, it is. Less than 2 years ago, Biden himself set a target of 50% of all new vehicle sales in the nation being zero emission. But the new proposal suggests the changeover could come even more quickly, while recognizing that tens of millions of gasoline-powered vehicles will remain in use well into the 2030s. In a call with reporters Tuesday, Environmental Protection Agency Administrator Michael Regan and White House National Climate Advisor Ali Zaidi revealed the broad outlines of the proposal, which looks to continue cutting greenhouse gas emissions from transportation sources substantially. For instance, the adjusted fleet-wide target for light-duty cars and trucks in model year 2026 of 186 grams of carbon dioxide emitted per mile would be reduced by more than half, to 82 grams per mile fleet-wide, by 2032, a reduction of 56%. New standards proposed for medium-duty vehicles like school buses and box trucks would see a 44% reduction compared to model year 2026 standards. The rules also look to cut emissions from heavy-duty trucks as well.
Okay, there's more to read on this if you like to read it in my description box. I'm going to go to the next one here. This is environmental effects of aviation from Wikipedia.
From Wikipedia, the free encyclopedia. Between 1940 and 2018, aviation CO2 emissions grew from 0.7. Aircraft engines produce gases, noise, and particulates from fossil fuel combustion, raising environmental concerns over their global effects and their effects on local air quality. 2. Jet airliners contribute to climate change by emitting carbon dioxide, CO2, the best understood greenhouse gas, and, with less scientific understanding, nitrogen oxides, contrails, and particulates. Their radiative forcing is estimated at 1.3 to 1 point for that of CO2 alone, excluding induced cirrus cloud with a very low level of scientific understanding. In 2018, global commercial operations generated 2.4% of all CO2 emissions. 3. Jet airliners have become 70% more fuel efficient between 1967 and 2007, and CO2 emissions per revenue ton kilometer, RTK, in 2018 were 47% of those in 1990. In 2018, CO2 emissions averaged 88 grams of CO2 per revenue passenger per kilometer. While the aviation industry is more fuel efficient, overall emissions have risen as the volume of air travel has increased. By 2020, aviation emissions were 70% higher than in 2005, and they could grow by 300% by 2050. 4. Aircraft noise pollution disrupts sleep, children's education, and could increase cardiovascular risk. Airports can generate water pollution due to their extensive handling of jet fuel and de-icing chemicals if not contained, contaminating nearby water bodies. Aviation activities emit ozone and ultrafine particles, both of which are health hazards. Piston engines used in general aviation burn avgas, releasing toxic lead. Aviation's environmental footprint can be reduced by better fuel economy in aircraft, or air traffic control, and flight routes can be optimized to lower non-CO2 effects on climate from NOx, particulates, or contrails. Aviation biofuel, emissions trading, and carbon offsetting, part of the ICAO's CORSIA, can lower CO2 emissions. Aviation usage can be lowered by short-haul flight bans, train connections, personal choices, and aviation taxation and subsidies. Fuel-powered aircraft may be replaced by hybrid electric aircraft and electric aircraft, or by hydrogen-powered aircraft. Since 2021, the IATA members plan net zero carbon emissions by 2050, followed by the ICAO in 2022.
Can you imagine flying on all-electric aircraft? You think people go for that? I don't know. Let me see what Contrail says here.
Contrails /trails short for condensation trails, or vapor trails, are line-shaped clouds produced by aircraft engine exhaust or changes in air pressure, typically at aircraft cruising altitudes several miles above the Earth's surface. Contrails are composed primarily of water, in the form of ice crystals. The combination of water vapor in aircraft engine exhaust and the low ambient temperatures that exist at high altitudes allows the formation of the trail's impurities in the engine exhaust from the fuel, including sulfur compounds, 0.05% by weight in jet fuel, provide some of the particles that can serve as nucleation sites for water droplet growth in the exhaust. If water droplets form, they might freeze to form ice particles that compose a contrail. 1. Their formation can also be triggered by changes in air pressure in wingtip vortices or in the air over the entire wing surface. 2. Contrails, and other clouds directly resulting from human activity, are collectively named homogeneous. 3. Depending on the temperature and humidity at the altitude the contrails form, they may be visible for only a few seconds or minutes, or may persist for hours and spread to be several miles wide, eventually resembling natural cirrus or altocumulus clouds. 1. Persistent contrails are of particular interest to scientists because they increase the cloudiness of the atmosphere. 1. The resulting cloud forms are formally described as homomutatus. 3. And may resemble cirrus, cirrocumulus, or cirrostratus, and are sometimes called cirrus aviaticus. 4. Some persistent spreading contrails contribute to climate change. 5. It turns out planes are even worse for the climate than we thought. By Michael LePage. June 27, 2019. Contrails produce a global warming effect. Roman Becker/IM/Getty. The contrails left by aeroplanes last only hours. But they are now so widespread that their warming effect is greater than that of all the carbon dioxide emitted by aeroplanes that has accumulated in the atmosphere since the first flight of the Wright brothers. Worse still, this non-CO2 warming effect is set to triple by 2050, according to a study by Ulrike Burkhardt and Lisa Bach at the Institute of Atmospheric Physics in Germany. Altogether, flying is responsible for around 5% of global warming, the team says, so this figure will soar even higher, and no meaningful actions are being taken to prevent this. Lots of people talk about the need to stop air traffic increasing all the time, but this is not taken that seriously, says Burkhardt. And the discussions that are taking place focus almost entirely on the associated CO2 emissions. That's a problem if the non-CO2 effects are larger than the CO2 ones, she says. The non-CO2 warming is the elephant in the room, says Bill Hemmings of Transport and Environment, a Belgium-based campaign group. All aircraft that burn fuels leave behind a trail of exhaust fumes and soot. At high altitudes, water vapor often condenses on the soot particles and freezes to form a cirrus cloud that can persist for seconds to hours, depending on temperature and humidity. Clouds can have both a cooling and warming effect. They reflect some of the sun's rays back into space, but also block some of the heat radiated by Earth's surface. On average, both thin natural cirrus clouds and contrails have a net warming effect. Burkhardt and her colleagues used a computer model of the atmosphere to estimate how much warming contrails caused in 2006, the latest year for which a detailed air traffic inventory is available, and how much they will cause by 2050, when air traffic is expected to be 4 times higher.
Yeah, and I've been noticing last year, especially this year, there's a lot more contrails out there. Every day I go out there, you can count on probably about 5, 6, 7 of them. That's just in the morning. If you want to read the rest of this, it'll be in my description box. Let me go to the next one here. This one here is from Fox News. Biden administration outlines plan to cut vital water supplies in western states.
The Biden administration proposed actions Tuesday that would significantly reduce water supplies in 7 western states amid severe drought conditions that stretch back decades. The Department of the Interior, DOI, released a draft proposal that highlighted 2 potential actions it could take to combat the Colorado River Basin's deteriorating water levels. The 2 proposals would each consist of federally mandated supply reductions for states that are dependent on the river system, which provides water for more than 40 million Americans and is vital for Western states' economies. Failure is not an option, Tommy Boudreau, the DOI's deputy secretary, said in a statement. Recognizing the severity of the worsening drought, the Biden-Harris administration is bringing every tool and every resource to bear through the president's Investing in America agenda to protect the stability and sustainability of the Colorado River system now and into the future. In addition to the water it supplies to millions of Americans, the 1,450-mile Colorado River supports 5.5 million acres of agricultural lands, provides electricity to millions of residents through hydroelectric dams, and has key recreational and ecological uses.
And you can read the rest of this in my description box if you like. I'm going to go to the next one here. This from Benzinga. Can't say his name. Seems to be preparing to launch war, says Taiwan minister. Let's see what it says here.
After China concluded a 3-day simulated joint precision strikes on Taiwan, Taipei has warned that Xi Jinping is ready to launch a war. What happened? Taiwan's Foreign Minister Joseph Wu, in an interview with CNN, condemned Beijing's actions in the Taiwan Strait. Look at the military exercises, and also their rhetoric. They seem to be trying to get ready to launch a war against Taiwan, Wu said. Chinese leaders will think twice before they decide to use force against Taiwan. And no matter whether it is 2025 or 2027 or even beyond, Taiwan simply needs to get ready, he said. After Taiwanese President Tsai Ing-wen returned from a brief visit to the U.S., where she met House Speaker Kevin McCarthy despite Beijing's warnings, China began 3 days of military drills around Taiwan. Why it matters. These comments from Wu came at a time when Chinese authorities have been ramping up military and political pressure to try and get Taipei to accept Beijing's sovereignty, including staging war games near the island and warplanes into Taiwan's air defense zone. Taiwan and its Western allies have repeatedly warned that she is learning from Vladimir Putin's war in Ukraine and can attack the island nation soon. Last month, Taiwan's defense minister said Taipei was on alert this year for a sudden entry by the Chinese army into areas close to its territory amid mounting tensions across the Taiwan Strait.
And that's all I got from that one there for you. And I may go to the next one here. It's from Ukrainska Pravda. Pentagon documents leak. Russian AWACS aircraft in Belarus blown up by SSU agents who disobeyed order.
The leaked classified documents of the U.S. have revealed that agents of the Security Service of Ukraine, SSU, are responsible for blowing up an A-50U, a Russian airborne early warning and control system, AWACS, at the Mykolaiv Air Base in Belarus. Source: media outlet The Economist. Quote, on February 26, members of the Security Service of Ukraine came to a shocking conclusion. Their own agents in Belarus ignored the order and attacked a Russian reconnaissance aircraft, A-50U edition, earlier that day. Details: reportedly, Americans found out about the actions of Ukrainian agents from the interceptions. These pieces of intelligence were stored on a classified slide about the war in Ukraine, spread by the United Staff of the U.S. on March 1. Background: on the morning of February 26, the Bipol Initiative reported explosions at the Mykolaiv Air Base in Minsk Oblast in Belarus. There was information about a damaged Russian AWACS aircraft. Alexander Azarov, head of the Bipol Initiative, said that Belarusian partisans were behind it. As he stated, the participants of the alleged sabotage in Mykolaiv left Belarus and are now safe. On March 7, Alexander Lukashenko said that Belarus had detained an alleged terrorist of the Ukrainian secret services and his accomplices, who were involved in an attempted sabotage of an A-50 aircraft at the Mykolaiv airfield. After the explosion, the entourage of the self-proclaimed president of Belarus claimed that the A-50 was fine and posted allegedly fresh videos, although the military monitoring media outlet Belaruski Hajuan reported that the Russian aircraft flew to Taganrog, Russia, for repairs. Andriy Yusov, representative of Ukraine's defense intelligence, said that Russia cannot currently produce A-50 AWACS aircraft, one of which was probably damaged at the Belarusian Mykolaiv airbase.
And that's all I got for that one there. Let's go to the next one here. It's from Cryptopolitan. Saudi Arabia advised Russian oil to invade U.S. sanctions.
Saudi Arabia has bought record volumes of Russian diesel to evade U.S. sanctions, according to a recent report by Reuters. Data from Refinitiv, Plur, and Vertexa showed that traders have taken advantage of low prices to stock up on fuel at the Fujairah hub of the United Arab Emirates and in Saudi Arabia. The Middle East is fast becoming a crucial supplier of industrial fuel to Europe and Africa while also adding to stocks in Asia. Rising output from Saudi and Kuwaiti refineries, combined with Russian oil, has effectively pushed Asian diesel exporters out of those markets, further depressing prices and refiners' margins in the East. Sanctions force change in Saudi Arabia's oil imports. Saudi Arabia is the top oil exporter globally and the largest producer in the Organization of the Petroleum Exporting Countries, OPEC. With the U.S. enforcing sanctions on Russian crude and oil product imports, Saudi Arabia has been forced to diversify its suppliers. Saudi Arabia imported 261,000 tons of Russian diesel in March and early April, the largest volume it has ever received from Russia. One of the cargoes went to Ras Tanura, while 3 were discharged at Jeddah. March loading Russian diesel cargoes traded at $60 to $70 per barrel on a free on-board basis, which is a discount of about $20 per barrel to the Middle East benchmark.
And you can read the rest of this in my description box if you like. Time's running short here. This is from 1945. Something is wrong with Joe Biden. Well, we all know that. Let's see what it says here.
Why are they hiding Joe Biden? Karine Jean-Pierre, the White House press secretary who spends more time refusing to engage with the White House press pool than answering their, usually, sycophantic, pedantic questions, is starting to feel the burn. Even a gelded press corps, such as the sort that currently populates the White House, can only take so much abject humiliation before it goes from being perversely enjoyable to downright degrading. President Joe Biden, you see, has been avoiding the press. Sure, he's been spotted intermittently speaking in very controlled settings with the press in the last few months. Even when Biden takes shouted, off-the-cuff questions from the press, it is rarely that they ask him such contentious questions the way they did of former President Donald J. Trump, their great orange whale. Certainly, none have behaved as grotesquely as CNN's Jim Acosta did when infamously challenged former President Trump over claims the 45th president had made while speaking live to the nation from the East Room of the White House. Sleepy Joe Biden hides. Nevertheless, Biden's interactions with the press are carefully choreographed and scripted. And the majority of the White House press pool is fine with it because, of course, they are on his political team. So, for that group to not only begin publicly castigating the White House press secretary but to openly mock the White House's press interaction, including Biden himself, is a big step. It should tell you that something is amiss in the Biden administration. This might also mean that the 46th president, irrespective of that which he and his supporters have intimated over the last several months in public, is not planning on running for re-election in 2024. Acting as though he has already secured the GOP presidential nomination for 2024, former Donald Trump began posting on social media his belief that Biden was not, in fact, planning to run for re-election because something is not right about Biden, according to the 45th president. The world is in a bad place since Joe Biden became president. While the 46th president could conveniently blame his hated predecessor, that would only work for a few years. At some point, the failures become yours as president the longer you remain at the top of the organization. Everyone knows it. Even Democrats, who will always stand by their man at the end of the day, are quietly acknowledging that Biden is not the one they've been waiting for.
There's more to read if you want to read any more about it. And I got 2 more tabs to go here. This one here from Tag 24 News. Russia delivers warning with intercontinental ballistic missile launch. Let's see what it says here.
Moscow, Russia successfully test-fired an intercontinental ballistic missile at a site in the south of the country, the Defense Ministry in Moscow said early Wednesday, delivering a new warning to its enemies. The long-range missile was launched from the Kapustin Yar test area in the Astrakhan region, on the banks of the Caspian Sea. The test warhead later impacted as planned at a site in the allied country of Kazakhstan, the ministry said, adding that the goal was to test the missile's combat capability. Russia has been raining missiles across neighboring Ukraine for more than 13 months. Moscow's military rhetoric toward the West has escalated at the same time, even raising the grim prospect of nuclear war. Recently, the Kremlin caused a stir with its announcement that it would station tactical nuclear weapons in Belarus. These weapons have a shorter range than intercontinental ballistic missiles, which can travel more than 3,000 miles. Fears are growing that Russia might resort to using them in Ukraine if it loses even more ground in an invasion that has stalled.
And let's see, that's all there is on that. Is Instagram thing there, but I mean a tweet. But anyway, I'm gonna go with my last one here. This is from Politico. The real scandal behind the Pentagon leaks.
A deep secret, like a glass of water, can be easily controlled and contained. But when you build vast structures to hold them, a national security apparatus in the case of secrets and canyon-spanning dams, when it comes to water, the pressures can exceed thousands of pounds per square inch. Unless adequately monitored and maintained, secrets and water can breach the restraints and flood everything downhill for miles. The Pentagon just suffered such a dramatic breach as upward of 100 documents leaked. These files contained a grab bag of national security secrets, including about the conduct of the war in Ukraine, U.S. success in penetrating the Russian war machine, insights on the clandestine maneuverings of Israel and South Korea, hints about a previously unknown satellite surveillance technology, the attempted shoot-down of a British spy plane by the Russians, a pending arms deal between Egypt and Russia and one between Turkey and Russia, a Russian effort to hack Canadian gas fields, and intelligence sources and methods, all of which flowed onto online sites, drenching the Pentagon in embarrassment and endangering secret missions around the world. As national security disasters go, the Pentagon leaks were complete. But as great a scandal as the secrets deluge might be, the greater scandal is how lax the Pentagon appears to be with such monumentally confidential information that it could be purloined and posted on free-form internet sites for Chan and Discord. Squawking from Congress has ensued, of course, and the Pentagon has muttered about how serious the damage is. There is talk that some of the documents have been altered to exaggerate the number of Russian dead. But the government is mostly ostriching the calamity right now. President Joe Biden has been silent on the issue. And on Monday, White House National Security Council spokesman John Kirby counseled the press to look away. Declining to confirm the provenance of the documents, Kirby said, "It has no business, if you don't mind me saying, on the front pages of newspapers or on television. It is not intended for public consumption, and it should not be out there." Yes. If the press and the public will only take a deep breath and ignore the rising floodwaters, the Russians and the Turks and the Israelis will ignore the tidal wave, too, and dryness will be restored to the land. Good work, Kirby. The Pentagon and Kirby, who previously worked as a military and diplomatic affairs analyst for CNN, have enough egg on their faces to start an omelet factory. They don't know how these secrets escaped their cage, they don't know who engineered the breakout, they don't know if additional secrets were snagged. They seem to know nothing and to be engaged in the magical thinking that if we turn away the problem will disappear.
Okay, if you want to know more about this, you can read in my description box. No, nobody's going to be silent about it. We want the truth about everything. We don't want no propaganda from no government, no White House. We just want the truth. Joe Biden is really screwing up. We know that. Anyway, that's all I got for you, folks. And don't forget to like, subscribe, at least come back once in a while. And thanks for watching.